The airport no longer sounds like a
We'll be
place
together
people
soon,
are
I
leaving.
promise.
It hums instead, low, restless, filled with the shuffle of boots against tile and the murmur of disappointment. Linda T. stands near the gate window, her breath fogging the glass as snow lashes the runway outside. Planes sit frozen in place, white-capped and unmoving, like abandoned promises. In her arms, her baby squirms, a soft whine rising as if she can feel the tension clinging to the air. Linda adjusts her grip instinctively, swaying just enough to soothe her. It works for the baby, not for her. All flights departing tonight are canceled due to severe weather. The announcement lands heavier this time. Linda closes her eyes. She had been holding on to hope by the thinnest thread, that maybe this flight would be different, that Christmas wouldn't find her stranded with nowhere to go, but hope slips easily when it's already worn thin. She exhales slowly, grounding herself. Panic won't help. Panic never does. She scans the terminal, taking stock. Families regroup, couples argue quietly. A woman drops into a chair and buries her face in her hands. Everyone has someone to call, somewhere to land. Linda looks down at her child and presses her forehead gently against the tiny knit cap. "It's okay," she whispers, even though she doesn't quite believe it yet. That's when she feels it. Not a sound, not movement, awareness. She looks up. A man sits several rows away, posture relaxed, hands folded loosely as if he's waiting, not trapped. He's dressed simply but impeccably, dark coat tailored to his frame, jaw sharp, expression unreadable. While the rest of the terminal vibrates with agitation, he remains untouched by it, watching. His gaze isn't invasive, it's measured, controlled. When their eyes meet, something tightens in Linda's chest. Instinct flares. Old, practiced. She looks away immediately. Men like him exist in different worlds, worlds with chauffeurs and contingency plans, worlds that don't collide with hers. She focuses back on her baby, shifting the diaper bag higher on her shoulder as it threatens to slide off, again. Her movements draw attention despite her best efforts. The baby lets out a louder protest this time, fists clenched, face scrunched. Linda starts pacing. She feels it again before she sees it. The man is closer now, standing just a few feet away, his posture calm but undeniable. He doesn't crowd her, doesn't smile, just waits until she notices him. "Rough night," he says. His voice is low, steady, unaffected by the storm, the noise, the chaos. Linda hesitates. Every instinct tells her to keep her guard up. Still, exhaustion cracks the door open. "They all are," she replies softly. His eyes flick briefly to the baby, then back to her face. Not curious, not judging, assessing, as if he's calculating risk instead of inconvenience. "The storm isn't easing anytime soon. Have you figured out where you're staying?" The question is simple, direct. Linda swallows. "Not yet." Something shifts then, subtle but real, a decision forming behind his eyes. He nods once, as if confirming something to himself. "I'm James, and I may have a solution if you're willing to hear it." Linda studies him for a long moment, the snow howling beyond the glass, her baby warm and fragile in her arms. Against her better judgment, she listens. The word solution echoes in Linda's mind long after James says it. She doesn't answer right away. Experience has taught her that solutions offered by strangers usually come with conditions she can't afford. She shifts her baby higher on her hip, buying herself a moment while she studies him more closely. Up close, James Smith is even more composed. His expression is calm but alert, like a man who's already thought 3 steps ahead. There's no impatience in his stance, no expectation. He looks certain, not about her answer, but about himself. "I'm listening," Linda finally says. The overhead screens flicker again, flashing red cancellations across every destination. A ripple of frustration moves through the terminal. Someone swears loudly. A child begins to cry. Christmas music plays faintly from a distant speaker, absurd and out of place. James gestures toward a quieter stretch of seats. "Let's sit. You look like you've been on your feet all day." She almost refuses. Almost. But her legs ache, and her baby's weight is starting to burn into her arms. Pride is easier to carry than exhaustion. Until it isn't. They sit with a careful distance between them. James rests his forearms on his thighs, leaning forward slightly, as if he's the one making an offer in a boardroom instead of an airport. All nearby hotels are full. I checked. Her stomach tightens. Then there's no solution. "There is," he replies evenly, "just not one the airline will give you." She waits. "I live about 40 minutes from here. I have space. You and your child can stay until the storm passes." The words land heavily, too heavy to be real. Linda lets out a soft, incredulous laugh before she can stop herself. "You're offering your house to a stranger?" "Yes." "That's insane." "Practical," he corrects. "You need shelter. I have it." She stares at him. "You don't know me. I know you're exhausted. I know you're carrying everything you own on your shoulder. And I know the way you stood in front of that window like you were bracing for impact instead of weather." Her throat tightens. She looks away, focusing on the baby's tiny fingers curling around her jacket zipper. "I'm not asking for anything," he adds. "No expectations, no strings, just somewhere warm." That's the part that scares her most. No strings has never existed in her life. "I can't," she says quietly. "I don't accept help like that." James studies her, unoffended. "Why?" "Because the last time she did, everything fell apart. Because dependence had cost her her sense of safety. Because trusting someone once had left her standing alone with a child and a future she hadn't planned." She doesn't say any of that. "I'll figure something out," she says instead. As if summoned by the lie, her baby lets out a sharp cry, tired, hungry, done holding it together. Linda's chest tightens as she bounces gently, murmuring soothing sounds. She reaches into her bag with one hand, fumbling for the bottle, her movements frantic now. James watches quietly. Then, without asking, he reaches out and steadies the bag as it slides off her shoulder. The contact is brief, controlled, but it sends a ripple of awareness through her. You don't have to be strong right now. You just have to be safe. Something in her cracks. She looks at him then, really looks, not just the polished exterior or the calm authority, but the steadiness beneath it. The way he hasn't pushed, the way he hasn't tried to charm or convince her. The storm rages outside, relentless. Another announcement confirms what they both already know. Flights are grounded through the night, possibly longer. Linda exhales shakily. "What about your family?" she asks. "Christmas?" James' jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "They're used to me not being there." That's not the answer she expected. "And you?" she presses. "Why are you really doing this?" For the first time, he hesitates. "Because I don't like leaving problems unsolved, and because no one should be alone in a place like this with a child." It's not a declaration, it's a fact. Her baby quiets, worn out, cheek resting against her chest. The weight of the decision settles heavily between them. "Just for the storm," Linda says, "until flights resume." "Of course," James agrees immediately. She nods once. "Okay." Relief flashes across his face before he schools it back into calm. He stands smoothly, already pulling out his phone. "I'll have my driver bring the car around." Driver, the word sharpens her awareness. Of course he has one. Of course this is the world he belongs to. As they walk toward the exit, Linda's heart pounds, not with fear exactly, but with the strangeness of stepping into something unknown. The sliding doors open, and cold air rushes in, sharp and biting. Snow whips sideways, illuminated by the floodlights outside. A black SUV waits at the curb, engine running, pristine against the storm. James opens the door for her, shielding her and the baby from the wind with his body.
The gesture is instinctive, protective. Inside the car, warmth envelops them. The door shuts, muting the chaos outside, and suddenly it's just the soft hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of her baby's breathing. Linda watches the airport fade behind them as they pull away, snow swallowing the lights. She doesn't know where this road leads. She only knows she's no longer standing still.
The drive stretches on in a cocoon of quiet. Snow blurs the world beyond the tinted windows, streetlights dissolving into soft halos as the SUV moves steadily forward. Linda cradles her baby close, instinctively rocking even though the small body against her chest has gone warm and limp with sleep. Each breath is a tiny puff of reassurance. James sits beside her, one arm resting against the door, gaze forward. He doesn't fill the silence. He doesn't reach. His restraint feels intentional, almost protective in its own way. The farther they go, the more the city thins. Buildings give way to trees heavy with snow, their branches bending like they're bowing under the weight of winter. Linda watches it all with a mixture of awe and unease. She's not used to this kind of quiet, not used to moving towards something instead of bracing for what might break. "Are you warm enough?" James asks quietly. She nods. "Yes, thank you." He adjusts the temperature anyway, just slightly, then stills again. Minutes pass, maybe more. Time feels strange tonight, elastic, unreliable. Finally, the SUV slows. A set of iron gates rises out of the snow, tall and imposing, etched with clean, deliberate lines. They open without a sound. Linda's breath catches. Beyond them stretches a long, winding drive framed by lights half buried in snow. At the end, a house emerges, not gaudy, not cold, just solid. Stone and glass, warm light glowing from tall windows, the kind of place built to withstand storms. "This is my home," James says simply. The word home lands heavier than she expects. The car pulls to a stop beneath a wide overhang. Before Linda can move, James is already out, opening her door, shielding her again from the wind. Snowflakes cling to his coat, melting slowly as he leans in. "Take your time," he says. "I've got you." She steps out carefully, clutching her baby, her boots sinking into fresh snow. The air smells clean, pine and cold, and something faintly metallic. It feels like another world entirely. Inside, warmth wraps around her immediately. The entryway is expansive but not empty. Soft rugs, polished wood, muted lighting. A Christmas tree stands to one side, tall and understated, white lights glowing gently against silver ornaments. The faint scent of cedar and spice lingers in the air. A man approaches from deeper inside the house, tall and broad-shouldered, his smile immediate and bright. "There you are," he says, voice booming with cheer. "I was starting to think the storm had swallowed you whole." "Dad," James says. The word carries a familiarity that surprises Linda. The man's attention shifts to her, then to the baby, and his expression softens instantly. "Well, aren't you a sight? Come in, don't stand freezing out there." This is Linda and her daughter. "Declan," the man says, offering a hand and then thinking better of it when he sees the baby. "Welcome. Any friend of my son's is family here." "Friend." Linda smiles politely, unsure how to respond, overwhelmed by the warmth in his voice. Another presence joins them, a woman descending the staircase with effortless grace. She's elegant, composed, her pale hair swept back neatly. Her eyes are sharp, observant, taking in every detail. "I'm Althea," she says, her smile reserved but not unkind. "You must be exhausted." "Yes," Linda admits softly, "but grateful." Althea nods once, as if filing that away. "You'll be more comfortable upstairs. James, show her the guest room." James inclines his head and gestures for Linda to follow. As they move through the house, she becomes aware of the subtle order in everything, the quiet efficiency, the way the space seems to respond to him. Upstairs, he opens a door at the end of the hallway. The room beyond makes her stop short. A wide bed dressed in soft linens, a crib set neatly near the window, a rocking chair. On the dresser, folded baby clothes, unopened packages of diapers, bottles still in their boxes. Linda turns slowly, disbelief tightening her chest. This wasn't here before. No, James says. I had it arranged on the way here. Her eyes burn. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he interrupts gently. You shouldn't have to ask for what your child needs. She presses her lips together, emotions swelling dangerously close to the surface. Thank you, she manages. I don't know how to. You don't need to, he says. Just rest. He hesitates at the doorway. Dinner will be ready soon. No pressure. Take whatever time you need. When he leaves, the door closing softly behind him, Linda sinks into the rocking chair, her baby still asleep against her chest. The room hums with warmth and quiet. Safety. The realization hits her all at once, and she exhales shakily. Later, she joins them downstairs, her baby bundled securely. Declan is setting the table, humming off-key. Althea moves with practiced ease, placing dishes, directing without raising her voice. James stands near the window, watching the snowfall, his reflection faint in the glass. Dinner is simple but comforting. Soup that warms her from the inside out, bread still steaming, no questions she's not ready to answer, no expectations. At one point, her baby stirs, fussing lightly. Before Linda can rise, James is already there, kneeling beside her chair. May I? He asks quietly. She hesitates, then nods. He takes the baby with surprising gentleness, cradling it as if it's natural to him. The crying fades almost immediately. You've done this before, she murmurs. I have, he says. Something shadows his expression, then clears. A long time ago. She watches him, something in her chest loosening. Later, when the house settles into stillness and the storm howls beyond the walls, Linda stands at the guest room window looking out over the snow-covered grounds. She doesn't know what tomorrow will bring, or the next day, but for the first time in a long while, she isn't afraid of the night. Down the hall, James pauses outside her door, listening to the quiet within. He rests his hand briefly against the wood, then withdraws it, his expression unreadable. Two lives thrown together by chance, and something quietly and irrevocably changing. Morning arrives quietly, filtered through snowfall and pale light slipping past the curtains. Linda wakes slowly, disoriented for a moment by the unfamiliar ceiling, the softness of the bed, the steady hush of a house built to keep storms out. Her daughter stirs beside her in the crib, making a small sound that pulls Linda fully awake. She rises immediately, moving on instinct, lifting her baby into her arms and pressing a kiss to her warm forehead. For a brief, dangerous moment, peace settles in her chest. Then reality creeps back in. She is a guest in a billionaire's home, a stranger's world, a place governed by rules she doesn't yet understand. Downstairs, the house is already awake. Voices drift from somewhere beyond the kitchen, low, controlled, familiar in tone but distant in content. Linda pauses at the bottom of the stairs, shifting her baby higher on her shoulder. She smooths the front of her sweater, suddenly acutely aware of herself. Her clothes are clean but modest, practical. They don't belong here. James notices her immediately. He straightens, conversation ending without a word, attention snapping fully to her. It's subtle but unmistakable, the way the room adjusts around him, the way others defer without being told. Good morning, he says, voice warm but measured. Morning, Linda replies, suddenly unsure where to stand. Did you sleep? He asks. She nods. Better than I have in weeks. Something passes over his face at that, quickly masked. I'm glad. Althea gestures toward the kitchen. Breakfast is ready. Sit, please. Linda hesitates only a second before obeying. She chooses a chair near the end of the table, instinctively minimizing her presence. James notices. He always notices. He takes the seat across from her instead of at the head. Breakfast unfolds with quiet efficiency. Fresh fruit, warm bread, eggs prepared just right. Someone pours coffee without asking how she takes it, and somehow gets it exactly right. Linda doesn't miss the way everything here runs smoothly. Not stiff, not cold, just controlled. James doesn't hover, but he doesn't disappear either. When her baby fusses, a clean cloth appears beside her. When she reaches for water, the glass is already full. Still, there is distance. Not physical, he sits close enough that she can feel his presence, but emotional, like a line drawn carefully, deliberately, between them. After breakfast, James arises. I have meetings this morning. Her heart dips before she can stop it. I won't be gone long, he adds, watching her closely. You're welcome to stay wherever you're comfortable. The house, the grounds. Althea can show you around. I don't want to be in the way, Linda says quickly. You're not, he replies, firm. But there are boundaries. The word lands with quiet weight. This house has staff, security, routines, James continues. They'll give you space, but they need to know where you are for safety. Of course, she says, nodding. I understand. He studies her for a moment longer, as if gauging something unseen. Then he nods once. Decision made. Thank you, he says, not for understanding, but for respecting the rule without challenge. When he leaves, the shift is immediate. The house exhales, but the air feels emptier. Althea leads Linda through the estate at a slower pace, pointing out the essentials, the library, the sitting rooms, the sunroom overlooking the snow-covered grounds. She doesn't overwhelm her with excess, doesn't parade the wealth. It's all understated, intentional. James prefers simplicity, Althea says. Everything here serves a purpose. Even the space? Linda asks quietly. Althea smiles, faint but knowing. Especially the space. They stop at a set of tall windows. Outside, snow drifts lazily down over manicured grounds, paths already cleared despite the storm. He built this place to be unbreachable, physically, emotionally. Linda swallows. Does it work? Most of the time. Left alone again, Linda wanders into the sunroom and settles into a chair, rocking her baby gently. She watches the snow, listens to the silence, and feels the weight of being a guest press in around her. She doesn't belong here, and yet the house hasn't rejected her. Later, footsteps approach. James returns sooner than expected, coat dusted with snow, jaw tight with restrained tension. His eyes find her immediately, relief flickering before discipline reasserts itself. Everything okay? He asks. Yes, she says. Your home is beautiful. It's just a building, he replies. She smiles softly. Not the way you live in it. That stops him. He exhales slowly, rolling his shoulders as if shedding armor. Walk with me. They move side by side through the hallway, their steps falling into an easy rhythm. He shows her the back terrace, the view stretching out endlessly white and quiet. I don't usually invite people here, he says. I know. This isn't charity, and it isn't impulse. She looks up at him, searching his face. Then what is it? He hesitates, just long enough to tell her the answer isn't simple. Responsibility, he says finally, and choice. They stand there in silence, snow drifting between them, something unspoken hanging heavy in the air. I don't expect anything from you, James says. Not gratitude, not trust, not permanence. Her chest tightens. And what do you expect from yourself? His gaze sharpens, surprised by the question.
I expect control, he answers. And if that's the very thing that's kept you alone, she asks gently. The question lingers between them, fragile and dangerous. James steps back first. You should rest, he says, voice carefully neutral. Tonight we'll have dinner together, properly. She nods, understanding the retreat for what it is, not rejection, but restraint. As he walks away, Linda presses a hand to her chest, steadying her breath. This house has rules, but so does her heart, and both are already being tested.
Evening settles over the estate like a held breath. Snow continues to fall, soft and unrelenting, turning the world beyond the windows into a blur of white and silver. Inside, lights glow warmer, lower. The house shifts from efficiency to intimacy, without ever losing its quiet discipline. Linda changes into the simple dress Althea left on the bed. Soft fabric, deep color, elegant without trying too hard. It fits her better than she expects, as if chosen with intention. She hesitates before leaving the room, steadying herself, then steps into the hallway. James is waiting at the bottom of the stairs. He straightens when he sees her, something dark and unreadable passing through his eyes before he schools his expression. He's changed too. No tie, no jacket, just a crisp shirt rolled at the sleeves. Less armor, still unmistakably in control. Dinner's ready, he says. They eat in a smaller dining room this time, candles flickering between them. The table isn't crowded, no staff hovering, just the quiet clink of silverware and the steady presence of another person across from her. Conversation starts cautiously, safe topics, the storm, travel, her baby now sleeping peacefully in a nearby bassinet. She's calm, James observes. She senses when I am. Children always do. His gaze lingers on her a moment longer than necessary. Then you must be calmer than you think. After dinner, they move to the sitting room. The fire crackles softly, casting shadows that dance across the walls. Linda curls into one end of the sofa, tucking her legs beneath her, the day finally catching up to her. James pours 2 glasses of wine, hesitates, then brings her water instead. The gesture doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you, she says quietly. He sits at the opposite end, close enough to feel, far enough to resist. Minutes pass without words. It isn't uncomfortable, just full. Why do you do that? Linda asks suddenly. Do what? Always stop yourself halfway. James exhales slowly. Because some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. And you don't want to cross them, she asks. I don't trust what happens if I do, he admits. She studies him in the firelight, the strength, the restraint, the loneliness threaded through both. I'm not asking you to save me or to promise anything. He meets her gaze. Then what are you asking? She hesitates, then answers honestly. Just to be here, present. Something shifts. James moves closer, not touching, just enough that his warmth reaches her. I can do that, for tonight. Their shoulders brush, accidental, electric. Linda's breath catches. He stills immediately, giving her space, eyes searching her face. She doesn't pull away. They sit like that, the storm raging outside, the fire burning low, 2 guarded hearts sharing the quiet. For the first time since the airport, Linda allows herself to believe this night might hold something more than survival. And James, staring into the flames, realizes he's already losing the control he swore to keep.
Morning breaks sharper than the night before. The storm has eased, but the world outside remains locked in white silence. Linda stands at the window, her daughter warm against her shoulder, watching plows carve dark paths through the snow. For the first time since arriving, the thought forms clearly in her mind. She could leave. The realization tightens her chest. Downstairs, tension hums beneath the surface. Staff move efficiently, but quieter than before. Voices are lower. Doors close more carefully. Something has shifted, and Linda feels it instinctively. James is distant at breakfast. Not cold, just guarded. He listens more than he speaks, his attention fractured, eyes flicking to his phone, then to the window, then briefly, almost painfully, to her. When their gazes meet, something unspoken passes between them, a warning, a question. Afterward, Althea pulls James aside near the study. Linda doesn't mean to listen, but their voices carry. "This was supposed to be temporary," Althea says, measured but firm. "You know what happens when lines blur." "I'm aware. That doesn't mean I made a mistake." "Attachment is a liability," Althea counters, "especially now." Linda steps back before they notice her, heart pounding. The word liability echoes painfully. Later, James finds her in the sunroom. She's packing a small bag, movements calm but deliberate. "What are you doing?" he asks. She turns, steady despite the ache rising in her throat. "The roads are clearing. I don't want to overstay." "That's not what this is," he says sharply. "Isn't it?" she asks. "Your world has rules. I don't fit into them." His jaw tightens. "You don't know that." "I do," she says gently. "I've spent my life learning when I'm not wanted." "That's not—" He stops himself, breath rough. "It's not about wanting." "Then what is it about?" she pressed. Control flashes in his eyes, fear underneath it. "It's about risk," he admits, "about protecting what matters." "And I don't?" she asks quietly. The question lands hard. James steps closer, voice low. "You matter. That's the problem." Silence swells between them, heavy and fragile. Linda closes the bag and sets it down. "I won't be the reason you compromise yourself." "You're not asking me to," he says. "Yes, I am," she replies, "just by being here." Her daughter stirs, sensing the shift. Linda presses a kiss to her forehead, grounding herself. "I won't beg to stay, but I won't pretend this hasn't meant something either." James looks torn, between instinct and restraint, between the man he's been and the one she's pulling out of him. "If you walk out that door," he says quietly, "I don't know if I'll stop you." "I know. That's why this has to be your choice." She lifts the bag again, pausing by the door. James watches her go, fists clenched, every instinct screaming at him to act. And for the first time in years, control feels like the wrong answer. The door doesn't close. Linda pauses with her hand on the handle, breath shallow, heart pounding loud enough that she's sure James can hear it. She waits. 1 second, 2, telling herself she won't turn around unless he asks her to stay. Behind her, something breaks. "Don't." The word is rough, stripped of polish and control, not an order, a plea. Linda's fingers loosen. Slowly, she turns. James stands where she left him, but he looks different now, less composed, more exposed. His shoulders are tense, his jaw tight, as if holding back something that's been caged for too long. "I don't want you to go," he says. "Not like this." She swallows. "I can't stay if I'm just a risk you're managing." He shakes his head once, sharp. "You're not a liability. You're a disruption." The corner of her mouth lifts, despite herself. "That doesn't sound better." "It is," he insists, "because it means you matter enough to change things." He steps closer, stopping just short of touching her. His voice lowers. "I've spent my life believing that if I controlled every variable, nothing important could be taken from me again. Power, distance, order." He exhales. "But you walked in with nothing but honesty and a child in your arms, and suddenly control feels empty." Linda's eyes burn. "I'm afraid," he admits, "of wanting something I can't calculate, of letting my guard down and losing it all." She nods slowly. "I'm afraid too, of trusting someone who might decide I'm too much or not enough." Their fears hang between them, equal and exposed. James reaches out, not to claim, not to pull, but to rest his hand over hers, warm, steady, real. "I can't promise certainty," he says, "but I can promise intention. If you stay, it won't be out of obligation. It will be because I choose you, fully." Linda looks at their joined hands, then up at him. "And if I stay," she says softly, "it won't be because I need saving. It'll be because I want to try." A long breath leaves him, relief and tension tangled together. "Stay," he says again, this time quieter, surer. Linda lets the bag slip from her fingers. It lands softly on the floor, the sound final and freeing. She steps into him. James pulls her into an embrace that is careful at first, then fierce, as if holding her is the only thing anchoring him to the ground. Her daughter stirs, and James's arms shift instinctively to include them both, protective without being possessive. "This is a beginning," Linda murmurs. "Yes," he agrees, "not an ending." Outside, the snow continues to fall, but inside, something has settled, uncertain, imperfect, and alive. And for the first time, neither of them wants to run from what comes next.
Christmas morning arrives wrapped in quiet. Not the empty kind Linda is used to, but a living stillness, the kind that hums softly beneath warmth and light. Pale winter sun spills through the curtains, turning the snow outside into a field of diamonds. For a moment, she forgets where she is. Then her daughter stirs, letting out a small, impatient sound, and everything comes rushing back. The house, the storm, James, and the choice she made. Linda lifts her baby into her arms, smiling as wide eyes blink up at her. "Merry Christmas," she whispers, pressing her lips to a soft cheek. The words feel fragile, almost unreal. She can't remember the last time she said them without bracing for disappointment. When she steps into the hallway, the house is already awake. Laughter drifts from downstairs, low, warm, unexpected. It stops her short. She follows the sound. The living room glows with soft light and the quiet chaos of family. A tall tree stands in the corner, lit and elegant, gifts neatly arranged beneath it. Someone, Declan, she realizes, has tied an enormous red bow crookedly around a stack of boxes, humming off-key as he does. James stands near the fireplace, sleeves rolled up, coffee in hand. He looks different, relaxed in a way she hasn't seen before. When his eyes find her, something in his expression shifts. Relief, warmth, unmistakable affection. "Good morning," he says, crossing the room without hesitation. "Good morning," she replies. For a heartbeat, they just look at each other. No tension, no uncertainty, just recognition. He glances down at her daughter. "May I?" Linda nods, and James takes the baby with easy familiarity, cradling it like it's the most natural thing in the world. Declan notices and lets out a soft laugh. "Well, I'll be damned. You look like you were born for that." James snorts. "Don't start." Althea appears from the doorway, taking in the scene with sharp eyes. She pauses when she sees Linda still there, still very much present. Something like approval flickers across her face. "I hope you're hungry, because if anyone tries to delay breakfast, I will personally declare this house a dictatorship." Declan raises his coffee in salute. "Already is." Breakfast is louder than Linda expects. Not chaotic, just full. Conversation overlaps, plates clink, someone argues about the proper way to cook eggs. Linda finds herself laughing, genuinely, her shoulders loosening with every passing minute. She belongs at this table. At one point, James reaches for her hand beneath the table, his thumb brushing against her knuckles. The touch is unguarded, sure. She squeezes back, heart full and steady. After breakfast, they gather around the tree. Gifts are handed out without ceremony, but with care. Someone hands Linda a small box, her name written neatly across the top. She hesitates. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," James says quietly. Inside is a simple silver necklace, delicate and understated, not extravagant, intentional. "It's beautiful," she murmurs. He steps closer, fastening it around her neck, fingers lingering for just a second too long. "It's not a promise," he says softly, "just a reminder." "Of what?" "That you're here because you chose to be." Emotion swells in her chest, sharp and bright. "Thank you." Later, as the house settles into a comfortable lull, Linda stands by the window again, watching snow drift lazily from the sky. James joins her, slipping an arm around her waist without thinking. "This morning feels different." "It is. I don't usually let people see this side of my life." She leans into him. "Why me?" He considers the question seriously. "Because you didn't ask for permission to be real. You showed up exactly as you are, and you didn't try to take anything from me." She turns to face him. "I still don't know what comes next." "Neither do I," he admits, "but I know I don't want to go back to how things were." Her daughter babbles softly, reaching for him. James smiles without restraint, a sound escaping him that Linda has never heard before, pure, unfiltered joy. Something in her chest settles. This isn't a fairy tale. It's not perfect, it's not guaranteed, but it's honest. As the day unfolds, more laughter, a walk through the snow, quiet moments by the fire, Linda realizes something profound. Christmas didn't save her. James didn't rescue her. She saved herself by choosing connection over fear. And James, standing beside her, realizes the same. The storm may have brought them together, but love, real love, is what made them stay.
The door doesn't close. Linda pauses with her hand on the handle, breath shallow, heart pounding loud enough that she's sure James can hear it. She waits. 1 second, 2, telling herself she won't turn around unless he asks her to stay. Behind her, something breaks. "Don't." The word is rough, stripped of polish and control, not an order, a plea. Linda's fingers loosen. Slowly, she turns. James stands where she left him, but he looks different now, less composed, more exposed. His shoulders are tense, his jaw tight, as if holding back something that's been caged for too long. "I don't want you to go," he says. "Not like this." She swallows. "I can't stay if I'm just a risk you're managing." He shakes his head once, sharp. "You're not a liability. You're a disruption." The corner of her mouth lifts despite herself. "That doesn't sound better." "It is," he insists, "because it means you matter enough to change things." He steps closer, stopping just short of touching her. His voice lowers. "I've spent my life believing that if I controlled every variable, nothing important could be taken from me again. Power, distance, order." He exhales. "But you walked in with nothing but honesty and a child in your arms, and suddenly control feels empty." Linda's eyes burn. "I'm afraid," he admits, "of wanting something I can't calculate, of letting my guard down and losing it all." She nods slowly. "I'm afraid too, of trusting someone who might decide I'm too much, or not enough." Their fears hang between them, equal and exposed. James reaches out, not to claim, not to pull, but to rest his hand over hers, warm, steady, real. "I can't promise certainty, but I can promise intention. If you stay, it won't be out of obligation. It will be because I choose you, fully." Linda looks at their joined hands, then up at him. "And if I stay," she says softly, "it won't be because I need saving. It'll be because I want to try." A long breath leaves him, relief and tension tangled together. "Stay," he says again, this time quieter, surer. Linda lets the bag slip from her fingers. It lands softly on the floor, the sound final and freeing. She steps into him. James pulls her into an embrace that is careful at first, then fierce, as if holding her is the only thing anchoring him to the ground. She presses her face into his chest, breathing him in, feeling the steady thud of his heart beneath her cheek.
Her daughter stirs, and James's arms shift instinctively to include them both, protective without being possessive. "This is a beginning," Linda murmurs. "Yes," he agrees, "not an ending." Outside, the snow continues to fall, but inside, something has settled, uncertain, imperfect, and alive. And for the first time, neither of them wants to run from what comes next.